Maya Williams stood in the pristine lobby of Stonebridge Tech, the air around her humming with efficiency, tinted with the faint scent of citrus disinfectant and designer cologne. The polished marble floors glistened under her feet, each step echoing a contradiction her presence in this place where most people thought she didn't belong. She could still hear the voice from earlier in the elevator, a whisper just loud enough to slice into her resolve. What's the janitor's daughter doing here? But she kept her back straight and her eyes forward. Her fingers clutched the edge of her leather-bound portfolio like a lifeline, but her jaw was steady. She had heard worse. She had seen worse. And still, she had come. The receptionist barely looked up as Maya approached the desk, her perfectly manicured fingers tapping briskly against the keyboard. "Interview?" she asked, her tone glazed with polite disinterest. "Junior Systems Analyst, Maya Williams." There was a flicker of hesitation, a quick scan from head to toe, then the receptionist nodded. "Top floor, Mr. Stratton's office. You'll need this." She handed over a freshly printed visitor badge, the laminate still warm to the touch. Maya accepted it with a quiet "thank you," then turned to face the glass elevator, watching her own reflection in the polished doors. Brown skin, minimal makeup, hair pulled into a tight bun, a second-hand blazer that had been pressed the night before. She looked like someone trying, and that was enough. The elevator climbed in silence, floor by gleaming floor. Her heart beat steadily beneath her chest, not with fear, but with the weight of years, of watching her father Robert clean these same hallways with quiet dignity night after night, of doing homework in the security booth while he made his rounds, of hearing him whisper, "Smart girls don't wait to be noticed. They make themselves impossible to ignore." And the doors opened to the top floor, and she stepped into a hallway lined with abstract art and frosted glass. A young assistant met her with a nod, leading her through a maze of open offices and muted conversations, each one pausing just slightly as she passed. The conference room was sleek, clinical in its precision. A long obsidian table, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a commanding view of the Atlanta skyline. At the far end sat a man in a tailored navy suit, eyes fixed on a tablet. He didn't look up as she entered. "Maya Williams," he said, his tone flat. "Yes, sir?" "Sit." She did, placing her folder neatly on the table. Michael Stratton finally looked up. Early 40s, Ivy League posture, razor-cut jawline. The kind of man who didn't ask questions he didn't already know the answers to. "You coded in C++, Python, and R, self-taught?" "Since I was 17. No Ivy League, no Stanford, South Fulton Community College." "Yeah." He leaned back, eyeing her with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. "Your resume says you worked part-time maintenance during school." "My father still works here, building services." His lips curled slightly, a smirk that never quite reached his eyes. "We get hundreds of applications for this role, some from MIT, Berkeley." "I'm sure you do." "So, why are you here?" She didn't blink. "Because I can do the job better than most of them." That made him pause. He folded his hands. "Confidence noted." He gestured to a terminal at the side of the room. "We've already run a basic technical test. Let's raise the stakes. That terminal runs our in-house analytics filter. It's bulky, inefficient. Fix it. 12 minutes." The room was still. "Let's see if the janitor's daughter can handle enterprise-level code." Maya rose without a word. She didn't flinch, didn't glance around. She sat at the terminal, fingers poised. The code blinked back at her like a dare. She scanned it once, twice, It was messier than she expected. Inefficient loops, redundant callbacks, lazy structuring. She could do better. And she would. The hum of the city below faded as her fingers danced across the keys, her mind finding rhythm, her pulse falling into sync with the logic. 10 minutes later, she stood. It's done. Stratton walked over, tapped through the console, skimmed her edits. He ran the script. It completed in half the time, cleaner, sharper. He stared at the screen. Who helped you with this? No one. You expect me to believe that? I've built similar tools for open data sets. I can show you samples. Aggression? That's one of mine. He turned to his assistant. Pull up last year's open source submissions from Aggression. Match the contributor tag. The assistant nodded and left. For a moment, the room was still. Everyone had been watching her, some smirking, some curious. Now they just stared. Maya returned to her seat and folded her hands, waiting. Minutes passed. Then Stratton's assistant returned, breath short. Her tag matches. She built it. Stratton turned back to Maya. Interesting. Is that all? For now? He paused, his face unreadable. We'll be in touch. When she stepped back into the lobby, everything felt brighter. Not because the sun had shifted, but because something had. She walked toward the MARTA stop where her father waited. He stood by the bench, arms crossed, scanning the crowd like always. She walked up and hugged him tight. I did what you taught me, she whispered. I showed up. And that was enough for now. The next morning dawned gray and overcast. A blanket of clouds stretching across the Atlanta sky like secrets waiting to burst. Maya woke early, long before her alarm buzzed. Her hands still tingled with the phantom rhythm of keys beneath her fingers, the memory of Stratton's sharp eyes and the silence that followed her code execution hanging in the air like fog. She made coffee, strong and bitter, the way her father always brewed it, and sat on the porch of their modest two-bedroom home on the south side. The birds hadn't yet begun their morning calls. The street was quiet, familiar in its early slumber. She sipped slowly, but her thoughts were already sprinting toward something she couldn't name yet. At 8:02 a.m., her phone rang. She stared at the screen for a moment before answering. Miss Williams? Yes. This is Leah from Stonebridge. Mr. Stratton would like to meet with you again. Today, 3 o'clock. May I ask what this is regarding? He didn't specify, just that it's urgent. The line clicked dead. Maya sat frozen, the cup warm in her hand. 3 o'clock. The same man who had barely wanted to look at her now wanted a second meeting, unprompted. Something in her chest tightened, not fear, but alertness, like a deer lifting its head in a clearing. At 2:50 p.m., she stepped back into the building. This time, no one questioned her at the front desk. The receptionist offered a flat smile. The elevator doors opened without delay. The climb no longer felt vertical but internal, like she was rising through layers of doubt she had long buried beneath humility. Stratton met her at the boardroom door. No assistant, no tablet in his hand. Miss Williams, he said, his voice even. Come in. She followed him inside, expecting the same sleek conference space from the day before, but instead he gestured toward a small round table near the window. 2 chairs, no observers, no power play. Water? He asked, pouring from a crystal carafe. She declined. First, he began, an apology. Maya blinked. Excuse me? I reviewed your code again, and the Aggression repository. He paused. You built something remarkable. Open source, no monetization. You could have sold it for millions. That wasn't the point. Then what was? She didn't hesitate. Fixin' something that needed fixin'. He studied her like she was a language he hadn't yet mastered. You understand, he said, that your skill set is rare. You don't just code, you build systems, intuitively, efficiently, fearlessly. I build things that work, and I need someone like you, he said. I'm creating a new division, rural innovation, infrastructure tech, agricultural tools. You'd lead the team. I applied for junior analyst, and you're overqualified, so I'm offering you leadership. Maya stared at him. This was too fast, too sudden, too strategic. Why me? Because you understand edge use cases. You see gaps the rest of us overlook, and I want someone who challenges the norm. And what's the catch? Autonomy, with accountability, but you'll have resources, hiring power, visibility. She didn't answer. Not yet. He leaned forward slightly. You're not here because of your father's mop. You're here because you earned it. And you're exactly the kind of mind that scares the old guard. She walked out of that office 30 minutes later, contract unsigned but offered. But something didn't sit right. Not with the timing, not with the sudden trust. That night, over dinner, she told her father. He listened carefully, chewing slower than usual. You trust him? He asked. No, she said. Then don't trust his words, Robert said, pushing the cornbread toward her. Trust what you can verify. She couldn't sleep. Something about the offer gnawed at her. The script Stratton had her run during the interview, it wasn't just inefficient. It was off, bloated in odd places, with routines that didn't align with the stated function. She fired up her laptop and replicated the script from memory, digging into the underlying logic. The further she traced it, the more questions rose. Then she saw it a sub-process, buried, masked as a routine diagnostic. But it was pinging a third-party server every 72 hours. Maya's fingers paused above the keyboard. It was obfuscated, but familiar. She ran a tracer out. The path bounced from Atlanta to Dallas to Zurich, then died. A private node, encrypted, masked, registered under a shell corporation. Maya's heart thudded in her chest. This wasn't sloppy engineering. This was deliberate. Someone was watching users, listening, collecting. And Stratton, he had either missed it or designed it. She stared at the blinking cursor. This wasn't just a job. This wasn't just a promotion. This was a test. And she had just cracked the first layer. The next morning, she sat on the porch again, the same mug in her hand, but this time the air felt different. He was still in his uniform, boots laced, lunch pail by his side. Didn't sleep again? I found something, she said quietly. Bad? Worse. They're collecting data from public institutions, school districts, hospitals, without consent. He nodded as if he had expected this. What are you going to do? I don't know. Then start with someone who still remembers what trust is supposed to feel like. She stood, walked into the house, and packed her bag. Inside her jacket, she slipped a flash drive, 2 backups. Then she headed downtown. To the Federal Building. No appointment, no lawyer, just the truth. She slid the envelope into the Department of Justice drop box. Inside, the data, the code, the logs, and a single note. This system is broken, but I can show you where it cracked. When she walked away, she didn't look back. But somewhere deep inside the machine, A countdown had begun, and Maya Williams had just lit the fuse. 3 days passed. 3 long days where the city outside moved like nothing had shifted, and yet Maya felt everything changing under the surface. The DOJ didn't call. The media hadn't noticed. Stonebridge Tech continued humming along, its glass walls reflecting the sky and concealing the fault lines beneath. Maya spent her hours at home in a state of quiet vigilance. She scrubbed her laptop twice, backed up the data into 2 more secure locations, encrypted each file with passphrases only she and her father could piece together. She waited. And when the knock finally came, it wasn't at the front door. It was a call from a blocked number. "Miss Williams," the voice said, calm and precise. "This is Ava McLaren, Cybercrimes Division, Department of Justice. We need to meet. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., 435 Peachtree, Sublevel 3. Come alone." The next morning, Maya passed through 3 checkpoints, each more austere than the last. She was led into a room without windows, lit by a single ring of fluorescent light. 2 agents sat silently against the back wall. Ava stood at the head of the table, sharp-eyed, gray curls tucked under a navy cap. "What you gave us," Ava began, sliding a folder across the table, "confirms our worst suspicions. You didn't just uncover a bug, Miss Williams. You caught a virus with a crown." Inside the folder were printouts of her code traces, now annotated with national security markers. Next to them, names of impacted institutions, city councils, a veterans hospital, 2 public school networks. Ava tapped a page. This sub-process was built on modified federal frameworks. Whoever inserted it did so knowing it violated at least 6 privacy statutes, possibly more. Maya nodded. "I thought so." "What you may not know," Ava continued, lowering her voice, "is that we've had an open file on Stonebridge Tech for over a year. Whistleblower suppression, aggressive lobbying, mysterious shutdowns, but no concrete proof until now." Maya swallowed. "So what now?" "We need someone inside," Ava said, "still positioned, still trusted. Someone with eyes on Stratton and access to the architecture." Maya froze. "You want me to spy?" "No," Ava said calmly. "You've already done that. We want you to keep doing what you've been doing, but this time with cover and backup." She thought about the offer, the risk, her father, her team. "One condition," she said finally. "If this all comes down, the truth doesn't get buried. It's told, publicly." Ava smiled just slightly. "Deal." That afternoon, Maya walked into Stonebridge like she belonged there, because now she did. The badge clipped to her blazer gave her full access to the Rural Innovation Suite, the newest apartment on the 17th floor. She stepped through the glass doors to find her team already setting up Jackson, Camille, Rima, and Julian. All of them brilliant. All of them untraditional hires. All of them hers. She greeted them with a smile, then turned to the code terminal in the back of the room. Her fingers moved with quiet precision. Outwardly, she reviewed irrigation algorithms. Internally, she traced more threads, deeper tunnels. One log led her to a ghost process labeled Passive Behavior Indexing. It was masked, same encryption pattern as the one she'd flagged. She tracked it to a secondary drive labeled Executive Sandbox. It wasn't just Stratton's division that was dirty, it was his domain. That night, as the sun dipped beneath the skyline, she called Jackson. "Emergency team meeting. Off-site. No laptops. No phones." They met at a quiet park under a rustling oak canopy. Maya told them everything, minus the DOJ, just enough for truth, just enough for trust. Rima was the first to nod. "We're in," she said. Jackson added, "We didn't sign up to build spyware. We signed up to build change." That night, Maya stood at her window and looked out at the city, alive with neon and movement. She thought about her father, his worn hands, his steady heart. She thought about the janitor badge he still carried. And then she remembered his words. "Don't trust words. Trust what you can verify." And she had verified enough. The next morning, Stratton called her into his office. "Sit," he said, gesturing casually to the leather chair. "I've reviewed your team's latest module. It's impressive. You've built something real." Maya said nothing. Stratton leaned forward, elbows on the desk. "You're the kind of a person I underestimated, and that's my mistake. But I want you to know I see it now, what you're capable of, what we're capable of together." She raised an eyebrow. "And what's that?" He smiled. "Control." It wasn't an offer, it was a test. And Maya, without blinking, replied, "That's what scares you most, isn't it? That someone like me might finally hold it." Stratton's smile didn't move, but his eyes, those eyes narrowed like a curtain before a storm. As Maya walked out of the office, she passed her father near the elevator. He was mopping quietly, head down. He didn't look at her, just gave a tiny nod. Not permission, not approval, a signal. The lines had been drawn, and tomorrow Maya would start pulling. The morning of the town hall dawned beneath a low, bruised sky, the kind of gray that made the city feel slower, quieter, as if it, too, was holding its breath. Inside, Stonebridge, soon to be renamed but not yet cleansed. Maya walked the corridors with her usual calm, though every step felt like a fuse burning beneath polished floors. Her team was already gathered in the conference room, now transformed. The walls bore mounted printouts of their rural innovation prototype, detailed dashboards, soil analysis diagrams, and weather-adaptive irrigation models. But those were just the decoration. The real purpose of the meeting pulsed beneath every word, every line of code, every slide ready to drop like a hammer. Reporters filtered in quietly, invited under the guise of a product demonstration. Community partners filled seats, farmers, teachers, city reps from underserved districts. Stratton hadn't appeared yet, but Maya knew he was watching. Probably from his office or through one of the building's many hidden eyes. It didn't matter. She had prepared for this moment not just with slides and stats, but with something stronger, truth. She stepped forward. Her voice was even. "Thank you for coming. Today, we're unveiling more than a product. We're revealing a promised technology that serves people, not monitors them." Polite applause. She clicked through several slides, highlighting features built by her team. Transparent systems, open source code, no data collection beyond explicit user opt-ins. But then she paused, clicked once more. The screen behind her changed. No graphs, no color, just code, then audio. Stratton's voice, crisp and smug, echoed through the room. "Most people won't even know they're being heard. That's the beauty. Real-time behavior input without false reporting bias." Gasps. One of the PR officers dropped her pen. Another executive stood halfway out of his chair. "This," Maya said, her voice like a blade, "is embedded in multiple Stonebridge platforms. It's been collecting audio, keystrokes, and behavioral metadata from schools, hospitals, and rural town offices, without consent, without oversight, and with the knowledge of top-level executives." The room was silent. Then Stratton appeared in the doorway, calm as ever, but his face was paler, the edges of his mouth twitching. "Quite a show," he said, walking in like a man still pretending the stage was his. Maya didn't flinch. "This isn't a performance. It's a reckoning." She nodded toward the monitor. A second file played a DOJ letterhead flashed on screen. "As of this morning," she continued, "a federal investigation is underway. Agents are on site, backups have been secured, and all implicated parties have been named." Stratton took one step forward. "This is your end, not mine." "No," she said softly, "it's your echo." At that moment, Ava McLaren entered the room. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her badge was enough. 2 agents followed. Stratton's assistant tried to stand in the way but was brushed aside like smoke. They didn't handcuff Stratton yet, but they surrounded him, asked him to step outside. His last words in that room were not threats, but silence. It was the sound of a man who'd lost his script. The reporters surged forward. Questions flew. Cameras snapped. Maya stood in the eye of it all, not overwhelmed, not triumphant, just grounded. By evening, the internet had exploded. Whistleblower exposes tech giant's secret surveillance network. Janitor's daughter brings down a CEO. The voice that stopped a machine. But none of that mattered when she stepped into her home and found her father waiting in the kitchen. He said nothing at first, just handed her a glass of sweet tea and sat across from her. "You all right?" he asked finally. She nodded. "Just tired?" He slid something across the table. His old Stonebridge ID badge. "Yours now." Maya picked it up gently, ran her thumb across the faded letters. "They never knew your name." "But they'll never forget yours," he said. Later that week, the company was placed under federal oversight. Stratton resigned before they could fire him, but the DOJ released a statement confirming full cooperation from Maya and her team. Lawsuits followed. Shareholders scrambled, and amidst it all, Maya quietly moved her team to a temporary office 2 floors below, where sunlight still reached the windows and no microphones hummed beneath the desks. She renamed the product Clarity. It launched first in southern Georgia. In its first month, it reduced water waste by 42%, improved crop yields, and gained community trust without collecting a single line of user data beyond what was volunteered. It didn't trend. It didn't sell out. But it worked, honestly. Weeks later, Ava called. "We've completed the second sweep, full indictment. The surveillance module was used far more broadly than we thought. You just saved a lot more than a company's reputation. You saved lives, privacy, maybe even futures." Maya thanked her, but didn't ask for credit. That wasn't the point. Months passed. New ethics policies were drafted. Maya was asked twice to take the CEO title. She declined. "You don't need to own the tower to fix the foundation," she said. Instead, she formed an internal ethics council, one with veterans, students, engineers, and even her father, who now walked the halls not with a mop, but with purpose. His first policy idea? No more corner offices, no more locked door. Maya smiled and implemented it the next day. And on a crisp morning in December, with the sky the color of steel and the city waking slowly beneath it, Maya stood in front of the now renamed building. The new logo above the entrance read, "Reclaim Systems." Beneath it, in simple, etched lettering, "Justice doesn't wait for permission." Her father stood beside her, arms folded. "You ready?" Maya nodded. She was, because the silence had cracked. and from within it a voice had risen, not loud, not angry, but clear and impossible to ignore.